Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is Daniel Umstead, host of the RNG radio show. I got three amazing doctors right here on the podcast. We're actually going to be deep diving into AI technology and its impact on the African American community. But typically, as you know, I'll go through each or the guest bio. But today, since I just got an amazing panel, if you will, I'll actually introduce themselves one by one. Now, y'all know my mama raised me right, so I'm going to start with ladies first. Dr. Danielle Davis, if you can start off by introducing yourself, where you're from, and what you'll be talking about today on today's podcast.
Sure. Thank you so much for the invitation, sir. My name is Dr. Danielle Joy Davis. I am a tenured full professor at St. Louis University in St. Louis, Missouri, in the School of Education. I do research related to ethics in terms of research. I also do lots of research related to equity within educational systems, particularly in regards to marginalized young people. And my latest research is looking at ethical concerns related to AI in research and the use of AI in terms of geospatial technologies. So I'm very excited about that. I'm also a faculty associate with the St. Louis University Water Institute, where basically we conduct water science and creatively mesh community engagement with the study of water.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much for that intro, Dr. Davis. Greatly appreciate that. Next, and I'm just going by who I'm looking at right now, Dr. Matthews, if you could introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, but after that introduction, Doctor, I'm just a dude that likes AI compared to what Dr. Davis just offered. My goodness, I got to make some stuff up now. So I'm a research scientist in the philosophy field known as Africana Phenomenology. My research gaps are Black trauma, Black mental health, and the digital divide as it relates to AI and marginalized communities. I've written 4 of the first of its kind books on Black AI, known as the Black AI Jedi on Amazon, where part of that research gap is teaching Black single parents how to homeschool their children, particularly those in special needs. The Black AI Jedi for seniors, for Black seniors. The Black AI Jedi for, this is the one that I think Dr. Davis hates the most, on how to do research without a PhD and a master's degree. And then one on Black mental health using Chat GPT for self-mental health conversations. So in a nutshell, that's kind of what I do. I have a pretty large podcast on YouTube where I interview the most brilliant minds in the world. Actually, both of them. Dr. Davies has been on my Black Excellence series. Dr. Joy is coming on. We just had Dr. George Frazier. And I'm just excited when I met Dr. Jimmy Davies that we meshed. He invited me onto his platform, became my mentor, and the rest is history.
Wow, incredible. Thank you so much for that. And then last but not least, Dr. Davies, if you can introduce yourself as well.
Sure, and thanks again. The name is Dr. Jimmy J. Davies. And I came, I guess, a different path. Years ago out of college, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. Tried all different types of businesses, small businesses. And then in the fall of 1987, a friend introduced me to a Macintosh computer. and I literally remember that day. I mean, literally. And with the graphical user interface, first time I'd ever seen anything like that. So in January of 1988, I started McMaster's Computer Training Service, but I tell people I had 2 problems. I didn't own a computer and I didn't know how to use one, but I just knew I had to get into it. So I'd read the books and drummed up the business and learned on other people's computers until I was able to buy and purchase my own. But anyway, that mushroomed during the 90s. No one knew how to use anything, and that mushroomed into a business where I was servicing literally a dozen states, 8 of them on a regular basis. about 40 different cities, going from city to city, teaching people how to use software, all types of software. And started to specialize in FileMaker database development as a FileMaker database developer. But around 2015, I really was sort of, even though I loved the technology, I was trying to figure out, what do I really want to do? I was always helping other people with their technology, their needs. And at that time, I met a Dr. Joel Dudley Sr., who recently passed away about a month or so ago. He emphasized entrepreneurship, and especially for the African American community, to change, to close that income gap, the wealth gap. He always preached that we need to become entrepreneurs, working for ourselves. Said become a job maker and not a job taker. So it became clear to me to use those technology skills that I had gathered over the years to help entrepreneurs with their technology. And that's what was the birth of Every.Black, where we teach entrepreneurs how to use technology, including AI, especially AI. We have weekly mastermind meetings because we're on Zoom. We're bringing entrepreneurs from around the world. And that's basically what we do, to network and to emphasize the use of technology in their businesses, emphasize helping them with their businesses.
Great, awesome. Thank you all so much. I mean, the fact that I got history makers here on the podcast, truly an honor. I do have a question for all of you, the same question, and I'll actually start with you, Dr. Matthews. What got you started in AI, and why is it's so important for the African American community? Dr. Matthews, after you start, then we'll go to Dr. Davis, and then Dr. Davies. So go ahead,
Sure.
Dr.
Thank you for that. Well, I got into it because it's kind of funny. I got my doctorate prior to AI being available, and I was upset about it. Actually, I had some sleepless nights because it could have been a lot easier, and I could have had more hair as a result of that. But that didn't work out. So I got my master's and had to write my dissertation the old-fashioned way, and without any help of AI. However, and I did it in my 50s. That's just kind of a caveat. So I did it later in my years as opposed to earlier in my years. And I don't know if anybody here is old enough to be over 50, but when you're trying to do a doctorate or any type of mental work at that level, based upon all of the what we call racial battle fatigue that has built up over the years, it's very difficult to concentrate. And so when I found out about ChatGPT, pretty much around the same time everybody did. It's only about a year and a few months old. I think it came online November, was it 22nd, 2022? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes. So at that point, I went in and started playing with this thing, and I literally lost my mind, went down this incredible rabbit hole. But because of what my research was about, I said, this is a game changer, because finally, there's something that can give Black people an unfair advantage in an unfair world. And my research, as you see my background, has led me to scientifically be able to prove nothing's wrong with Black people. Something happened to Black people, and something still is happening. And so I take that research, codify it with or meld it with the research on the digital divide and AI, giving us an unfair advantage. And so my enthusiasm came from there. But then I realized this is probably one of the most important moments in global history, but particularly here in the United States with Black people. This is the one that if you miss this train, as the OJs would say, I feel sorry for you, because I don't think there's going to be anything more disruptive and more innovative than this new AI technology. So I am trying to get as many Black folk as possible to use it. I teamed up with Dr. Davies to teach it and give it to our people, teach them how to unlock all of the wealth that's already on their shelf, which is all of the collection of knowledge and information and books they've read for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Dr. Davis, same question to you.
Well, I I almost feel that Dr. Davies should have commented before me, because if you ask me, well, what got you started in looking at issues related to AI, it was simply being a member of Every Dot Black, you know? Actually, because of my membership with Every Dot Black, I actually was well above the curve in terms within my field, in terms of learning about AI and its implications for teaching and learning. A lot of the questions that we were asking in Every Dot Black, some academics didn't want to talk about it, right? It was like a lot of academics wanted to put their head in the sand. No, we don't want to talk about AI. It's too much. It's just too much. And over time that changed within definitely a couple of months, but I definitely know initially when I started learning more about AI through my membership with Every Dot Black, there was a period where I did feel like quite a few people in academia in my space were not talking about it in the same ways that I was talking about it. So kudos to Every Dot Black for helping all of us in that way. And in terms of where I fall, I really love the term that Dr. Matthews introduced me to. And I realized that that's basically what I am. In one of his trainings, he referred to within AI, there's so many areas that you can embrace as we enter this new era, right? And one of those little nuggets was the idea of being an AI ethicist, an AI ethicist. So most definitely, I consider myself an AI ethicist. Yes, do I use it? Yes. For teaching and learning in my classroom, I have. But throughout that, I'm always questioning it. I'm always questioning its use. I'm always questioning the why behind it, everything. I'm full of questions, right? So I think that's where I stand with it, and I think that questioning it is a good and healthy thing. I actually was able to get a grant based upon my concern about the ethics concerned with AI. I actually got a grant to help support me to study the ethics of AI. And that's the grant that links AI with geospatial technologies and its level of ethics when working with marginalized communities. So that is how I've started and learned about it, and that's where I am now.
Great, awesome. I'm looking forward to, folks learning more about the research that you do come across. So thank you so much for that, Dr. Davis. And then, of course, last but not least, Dr. Davies, same question to you.
Sure. What got me started in it? Well, again, I've been in the computer field for literally 36 years, teaching people how to use software. And when I first got into, computer training and all the software coming out and learning about what it was can do, I got really excited about it. And I actually wrote a paper about it. I shared it with Dr. Matthews. I wrote a paper about it literally 30 years ago. Now with AI, I've been telling people this is probably as big. I think this may be even larger than have a larger impact than the personal computer. It's that big. I think the other thing that people don't realize is it's not just text. It's affecting everything in music or audio, not just music, but any audio, whether it's voiceover. It's affecting graphics. It's being used in video. OpenAI, the company that created ChatGPT, they've announced a program called Sora, S-O-R-A. They haven't made it available yet to my knowledge, but it literally, you can type in literally a scene or a movie, and it creates the video that is extremely realistic. This is huge. I just can't express it enough, because I'll give you an example. Recently, Tyler Perry, the filmmaker, was going to invest $800 million into creating movie sets for it to make movies. Once he saw Sora, he put that entire project on pause. Imagine how many people would have been paid to create those movie sets if he spent $800 million to do so. He still may do something, but that's affecting people. Am I jumping ahead? That's affecting people. Some are not going to even be aware of why they're not getting work. You know, it's huge. I can't express it enough. So anyway, so once I saw it, I just realized right off the bat, like, this is big. And I think immediately I started telling our members at Every Dot Black is like, we've got to learn this. And then that's when shortly after I ran into Dr. Matthews. And like you said earlier, we've teamed up to really try to emphasize the importance of people learning how to use it, what it's about, and not, as Dr. Davis said, you can't put your head in the sand on this one. So anyway.
No, and I couldn't agree more. I mean, I think the big thing, because I'm out here in Philadelphia, so when Easy Pass was getting more and more as far as being out there, you know, toll collectors, if you will, were like, all right, it shouldn't have any effect on us. And then I think most recently they just had, I think, between 15 to 20,000 layoffs because it was like, hey, listen, we don't need anybody at this whole list anymore. We're just recording, you know, and sending it straight out to somebody's house in regards to either bill, whether they're a customer or not. So for this, you know, impacting the job security in the economy does a whole lot, especially, you know, 800 million being pulled says a whole lot. So no, thank you for pointing that out. Dr. Matthews, I do have a question for you, especially with your background and expertise. In what ways can AI be leveraged to address the systemic issues like racial inequality within the African-American community?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because one of the things that pops up frequently that's in Dr. Davis's wheelhouse is the bias that's built in to AI. And that bias is because you have white men and white women programming AI, which is a large language model. So look at all the books and all of the things that are written, but also the access to culture. So what I ended up doing is the ChatGPT has a version called 4, which is a subscription-based $20 a month, and it allows you to create your own ChatGPT. So what I did is I programmed blacktraumagpt.com exclusively for Black people to deal with Black trauma. And I put in all of the Black scholars and Black trauma experts and psychologists in there to pull from their databases, their contributions, their books, and all of their scholarly works, so that when you go and have a mental health discussion specifically for you know, Black trauma and Black mental health issues, it's like you're speaking to someone that gets you, because I put in all of the nuances. The reason why this is so important to Black people is because we are always last to get on the bandwagon. And by the time we get on the bandwagon, it's usually too late, because the wagon has gone already has left us. And so we're left in the dust again. This is the time where you can create an entirely new direction and career for yourself. I think the scariest part is that there really are now no excuses not to be able to investigate or learn something. You know, if you wanted to go back to university, you can go on ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or some of these AI platforms, and you can investigate a particular field of interest and learn it to the point where you probably can go to school and you need to get that degree. There's nothing you can't learn. There's nothing you can't relearn, re-educate yourself. But this is another level and layer. And I'm also what's known as a prompt engineer. So my core competency, one of my core competencies in AI, and I just found this out from another AI guru, He said philosophers are the best prompt engineers. Well, my doctorate is metaphysical science and philosophy. So now the people who ask I'm always asking these big questions that allows me to be able to help anyone find the right questions they need to ask AI to unlock the wealth that's on their shelf.
Yeah, well, 1000%. And I mean, even to your point, just us being in the medical field, the search for, finding the right medical doctor, you just want to get over that hump. It's like, hey, I don't need to go over the background as far as blood pressure, kind of
Yeah.
like already in the DNA. I don't need to go over, whether the family has diabetes. It's more so, hey, by talking to somebody that looks like us, acts like us, and probably grew up in the same origin, is going to be a whole lot easier rather than to our white counterparts who, maybe in a lab and saying it's like, oh, this is what I just found on Google and putting in the system. So thank you so much for creating that, because it's heavily needed. It's heavily needed.
Absolutely. Cultural specificity is the term.
What is the word of the day? I'm sorry.
Cultural specificity.
I like that. And I probably won't be able to say that 2 times fast, even with the shot. Dr. Davis, I actually have a 2-part question for you. We talked about Every Dot Black in your intro starting since 2015. So we're, nearing the 10-year marker. Can you go over again why you got started with Every Dot Black? And then in addition, we're in 2024. What does 2029 look like for Every Dot Black?
Sure. Actually, 2015 is when I left developing medical software for a medical clinic, which called me back. But anyway, I left there to try to figure out what I wanted to do. And that's when I said I met Dr. Joel Dudley Sr. with these weekly meetings where he preaches entrepreneurship. And so I combined that with technology. Officially, Every Dot Black launched in January of 2018. So even though I've been trying to figure out what to do there for several years, officially we launched in January of 2018. As far as where we want to go, I really see it as expanding the network of entrepreneurs of African descent worldwide. Right now, we have entrepreneurs from the Caribbean that meet every Tuesday. We have a meeting every Monday night for entrepreneurs in the U.S. We call it Every Dot Black USA, or a mastermind meeting. But on Tuesdays, we have the Caribbean mastermind meetings where we literally hear from entrepreneurs in the Caribbean. And in fact, this coming Monday, the lady that was the Caribbean speaker this past Tuesday did so well that I asked her to be our speaker for this coming Monday. She has a very interesting story. But the point is that we're connecting the dots with people of African descent in other parts of the world. We also had Every Dot Black Africa going for about a year, but the young lady that was helping us with that was not able to continue it for some personal reasons. But I literally spoke to her a few weeks ago, and we're going to start that up again very shortly. So I just see expanding, and Africa alone, oh my gosh. I say Africa, I see at some point we're going to separate that into West Africa, East Africa, South Africa, and we're talking about an entire continent there. But the point is that because of technology, we're able to network with other entrepreneurs from around the world. That also gives us not only the opportunity to partner and to bond with other people from around the world, even though we may have never physically met, but that also gives us the opportunity to share this technology with people from around the world immediately. I mean, we're offering classes on an ongoing basis, and so we continually have the ChatGPT AI class. In fact, last year before I even met Dr. Matthews, I thought, you know what, I'm just going to keep doing this over and over and over because we've got to get this right. So I hope that answered your question, but I really see it expanding the network of entrepreneurs worldwide of African descent and to share the technology amongst ourselves to close that economic gap. That's my goal.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I definitely foresee it. So if y'all haven't been listening now, make sure you Google Every Dot Black right now and get more info. Continuing on, Dr. Davis, we did touch on your background a little bit, especially in the professional world. Um, in addition to your professional experience with AI, what has been your personal experience with AI?
Sure, very good question. I think that my personal experience with AI, it's been quite a journey. It's been quite a journey, but I think that one of the most memorable, I have two memorable personal experiences with AI. For a while, while being introduced to it, I was quite critical of it in a variety of ways, right? However, I was in a community setting where I was helping to develop a conference, and the conference leaders and we were trying to think of a name for the conference, and we couldn't think of a name. And one of the leaders said, well, let's just ask AI what we should call our conference. And I said, we are educated, intelligent human beings here. We can think of our own good conference name. We can do this. A while had passed, no one thought of a name. So then the person who suggested it finally put it in ChatGPT, and it came up with a name. And so then I said, Lord have mercy, that is a good name, isn't it? So
Dang you, technology.
what'd you say?
It's like, dang you, technology, trying to blow it
Exactly,
up.
exactly, you know. So that was an experience where I was like, oh man, you know, I'm kicking and screaming, but people are embracing it and benefiting from it. So that was something. You know, another personal experience is I homeschool my son. He is 15 years old, a sophomore. He is the proud sole student of Davis Academy. Yes. And he was working on his algebra independently, and he came across a problem he didn't understand. And it was during the time where I was learning about AI from Dr. Davies here. So my son was overhearing conversations and us talking about it in workshops and whatnot. So he decided to actually use AI as a type of algebra tutor without me realizing it, right? And then after, you know, about a week, he said, yeah, I've been using AI to help give me examples on how to solve these algebra problems. And I was like, okay, young man, very innovative, very resourceful. So he got an A plus in terms of being resourceful that week.
Okay. All right, awesome. I love that. And I got a 14-year-old myself, although his is on, and I don't mind embarrassing him on missing assignments. So I will definitely be introducing ChatGPT to him to assist him with that, so that way he can get A plus as well. And that way you can get off punishment, son. Love you. With that, Dr. Davis, you had mentioned that you're a professor as well.
Mhm.
I know that in the beginning there was that strain for the first, couple of months. But now, as you see it, how has AI complemented your teaching in academia?
Yes, yes. Now I have seen the discussion of AI definitely just over the last couple of months, it definitely has increased over the last couple of months. And now, you know, universities are offering regular workshops to faculty members. You know, students are developing different types of workshops to discuss AI. So now it's definitely more prominent in terms of discussion, at least on our campus. It is. It took a while, but now it's definitely prominent. And in terms of my own teaching, I because of the field I'm in higher education, the field of higher education. So basically, I am training future deans, future provosts, like future administrators and leaders within higher education and within the community, right? And within our field, we have certain competencies that are expected when people graduate with their masters and PhDs. And from my vantage point, there are certain competencies that I do not think AI is going to help develop. However, one way that I have integrated AI has been more of offering students examples. And what I mean by that is I did one exercise with students and I was so proud of myself. I told everyone, guess what? I used AI in the classroom, you know? And basically what we did was for 1 week, as an exercise, we as a classroom on our own defined what we viewed social justice as and what are all of the various components of social justice, right? We wanted to create this elaborate concept map of social justice on our own, right? So we had that part of the exercise. And then what I did a couple weeks following is I said, okay, we developed this elaborate concept map of what social justice means to us as a group of 10 people. Now, let's ask AI, what is social justice? And basically, all the students, I gave them permission to go online and to use any type of, because there's more than ChatGPT, right? There are other ways that they could do a search on what is social justice. And they used various forms to ask AI, what is social justice? And what we did was we compared AI's definition with our definition, right? And the students graded the AI, okay, did AI get an A? Did AI get a B or C? So they seem to enjoy that exercise a lot. And I actually think our definition was more robust, so to speak, but there was one AI definition that was close, but it wasn't as good as ours.
Yeah.
All right, cool, awesome. I'm glad that there's still that somewhat of a human touch, but still, as we have pointed out earlier, there's still going to be things that, technology just won't be able to communicate to others. So to you, Dr. Davies, you are building a legacy with Every Dot Black as confirmed 2018, in 2028, you will be all over around the world. And since we're working on moon time, confirming that on the moon as well. So I'm just putting that out there right now. But what tips or tricks can you provide to us, African-American entrepreneurs and businesses, on best ways that they can utilize AI technology to foster economic empowerment and community development? I know we kind of said, Tyler Perry stepping away after seeing Sora, but now it's like, hey, well, how can we use AI to better our businesses, better our communities?
Well, to begin with, we have to embrace it, not be afraid of it. We need to learn all we can about it because it is here. It's not going away. And I heard a quote, and I know Dr. Matthews loves this. He says, AI may not replace you, but someone that knows AI will. So some of these companies, a lot of companies are having some massive layoffs, but the people they're keeping are the people that are able to use technology to help with the bottom line. I just think that in order to, an entrepreneurs, first, like I said, we have to embrace it. We have to learn how to use it. Oh, I know what I was going to say, is that a friend told me years ago, and I believe this to be true, that during the California gold rush, it wasn't necessarily the people searching for gold that made all the money. Of course, some of them struck it rich, but the people that really struck it rich were the people that provided the tools to the people that were searching for the gold. And when I say that, because we need to look at what are the companies that are the foundation of AI. If you've been following the trade or the stock market recently, you'll see that some of these companies, the stock is like going through the roof. A typical profit, I guess, or typical investment will return maybe 6 or 7%. But these stock prices are going like 50, 70, even over 100% annual return. Companies that are the foundation of AI. So I'm saying that because we have to look at how can we as a community take advantage, whether it's using it or investing in the companies that are the foundation of it. We have to look at how can we how can we utilize this technology to the bottom line to make some money to close that wealth gap. So
Yeah.
anyway, yeah.
No, 1000%. And I mean, you had pretty much touched upon it. I mean, we now have Cash App, we now have Robinhood. Me learning about shares and stocks in school, of course, was non-existent, but we're living in the digital age right now where you can Google these things and put something as small as $1 into these stocks, and capitalize upon that. So learning about it, as you mentioned, being a part of it and embracing it is really going to be key rather than turning it away. This ain't the doctors where you just pretty much turn it off and say, oh, I'll go next week. It's something that you need to get on now, especially if you're trying to ensure your job security. So Dr. Davies, thank you for that. Dr. Matthews, I have a question for you. We talked about communities and you talked about Black Trauma Net. How can we do more as far as increasing diversity and representation of African Americans in AI research, such as Dr. Davis is doing, but when it comes to development leadership roles, what can folks do, Dr. Matthews?
Join every .black. I mean, really, honestly, that's
plain and simple. We're done, y'all.
Hey, that's it. Hey, good night, everybody. It was great being here and talking to all of y'all. You have to. I just had this conversation with Dr. George Frazier. You have to be around the people who are in the game, who are in the field, who are doing it, who are the movers and the shakers. And honestly, Dr. Davies is my Joe Dudley. He's my mentor. I think he's Dr. Davis's mentor at least as it relates to AI. I don't know about other areas, but I mean he's the dude. So you have to be around like-minded people. One of the problems that we have in our community is that we are surrounded by people who have learned how to succeed at losing and failing. And it's very difficult if you have a dream, a goal, an aspiration to be around people who have peaked at life and don't want to grow any further and then will discourage you from growing further. So the wonderful thing about this now is that you can have mentors like Dr. Davies, myself, and Dr. Davis, and you can do it in private because you could do it on your phone and you don't have to let everybody know, let the right hand know what the left hand is doing, because we do know Black trauma, part of that Black trauma and Black mental health is that we end up self-sabotaging ourselves and then subsequently self-sabotaging our family members and then so on into our community. Trauma begins, if it's not metabolized or recognized, it starts to look like a personality. And there's a jaded personality. Trauma is always going to lead to drama. Trauma is not logical. So we have parents who actually harm their children and keep their children numbed down and dumbed down so that they don't leave them. We have a situation now where if you want to really succeed, everything around you, even some of the social media, is discouraging you from that. I'm here to tell you that's a lie. Go to every.black, sign up, and be around the entrepreneurs and learn the language, learn to speak. There's a certain way successful people speak. There are words that they use over and over again. I've interviewed over 3,000 thought leaders in the last 30 years. So I'm really adept at just being able to hear success talk versus failure talk. So that would be one of the things that I would suggest, and that is get online and do it privately for yourself. Don't share your grow-up goals with anyone but yourself, because there might be people close to you that don't want you to succeed, because you'll end up leaving them and creating another series of abandonment, betrayal, and rejection that they don't want. So the people at the bottom want to be together just as much as the people on the top, which makes it difficult for the people, some of the people on the bottom, to get out. That was one of the things that I had to go and grow through in my own journey.
Thank you for that. And speaking of surrounding with success, where can actually folks find you all at on social media? Dr. Matthews, I'll actually start with you.
Sure. Shockmetaphysics.com. Shock, SHOCK, metaphysics.com. And of course, blacktraumagpt.com. Blacktraumagpt.com.
Awesome. Dr. Davies, if you could share your social media info.
Sure. It's every.black, and we've been saying every.black throughout your program. And someone's going to still try to add a .com or .net to it. No, it's
I did.
www.
I did.
It's www.every.black. And I was telling people, no, it's not a .net, it's .com, it's .black. It's like the new .com. And that became our slogan. So .black is the new .com. That's our slogan. So that's where we have all of our information as far as classes. We have information about our mastermind meetings. And once you join every.black, we give you more exposure because you're actually listed on the website as well. And then our classes, I actually got a separate domain for that. It's computerclasses.black. Again, I just love that .black domain. So we got that. And just to let people know too, the .black domain, it wasn't created for Black folk. What it was created for is to represent the best of the best. Well, maybe I can't say it is for Black folk, right? But it's created for the best of the best, such as the black tie, black little black dress, the black judge's black robe. It's to represent excellence. Or so when I found the .black domain and when I understood what it was about, I just had to have it. So that's where the name came from, every.black.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And I'll just share this too. At first, I had a series of websites. I had everyblackentrepreneur.com, everyblackprofessional.com, everybblackeducator.com, and I just cut all of that, shortened it to every.black once I found out there was a .black domain.
Nice, lovely. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Davies. And of course, last but not least, Dr. Davies, if you could share your social media info.
Yes, I can be found on LinkedIn, just simply under Danielle Joy Davis. On LinkedIn, Danielle with 2 N's.
Awesome, thank you. And then my final question, actually two, which is kind of a reminder to our audience. Starting with you, Dr. Matthews, if you could remind the audience as far as who have been your mentors, both during your entrepreneurial and professional journey, and then one last piece of advice that you can leave to right now.
My spiritual mentors, what I consider to be my spiritual mothers, is Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman, Reverend Dr. Helen Carey. These are juggernauts in the metaphysical and personal growth and development community. Reverend Dr. Mary Tompkin, Reverend Dr. Barbara King. Those are my spiritual mentors. Psychological mental mentors is Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Dr. Edwin Nichols, who I just recently had back on my platform, Dr. Joy DeGruy, who changed my life with her work, post-traumatic slave syndrome. There's a plethora because I've interviewed all these people, and in my business life. As I said, most recently, it would be Dr. Davies. But I had interviewed a gentleman who was the grandson of S.B. Fuller. And that's how Dr. Davies found me on LinkedIn and the connection, and told me then about the impact of Dr. Joe Dudley taking on taking on S.B. Fuller. And now, since Dr. Joe Dudley has passed, Dr. Davies now has stepped up and has been asked to continue on in that legacy. But Dr. George Frazier, who was just on, that we're working with in the Power Network, one of the greatest Black business minds of our time. So there's been several, but to answer the last question that you have, and that is parting to the community, one of the things that Dr. Johnny Coleman gave me was, she taught me that a mantra that you are the thinker who thinks the thought that makes the thing. Today we call it manifesting. but it's how to train your brain, to alter and reprogram your literal neurobiology to succeed. The thing about the brain that we don't recognize is that it can succeed. You can program it to succeed at success, or you can program it to succeed at failing. The brain doesn't know the difference. And so as a result, what we have to do as Black people is we have to learn how to train our brain to succeed towards success, as opposed to making our current situation more comfortable. Because making our current situation more comfortable doesn't get us out of the situation. We don't grow. We then revolve around these issues as opposed to evolving out of them. So I'll leave you with my best Zig Ziglar interpretation of his piece that he gave me many years ago. Whatever it is in life that you want to achieve, don't give up, don't let up, and don't shut up until God takes you up.
Love that, love that. And then next, Dr. Davies, same question for you.
Sure. I think one thing that you're hearing is that no one gets there on their own. We've all had mentors along the way. And some of mine, I was just making a list here of the people that had a real impact on my life. One was named of Henry Malcolm. He was in the Navy for 22 years, and he had come out of the Navy and he wanted to start his own business. And so we were office mates. His office was on one side of the building, my office was on the other. And we got to know each other well, but he became my mentor. He was older, and he was someone I can go to about anything, about life, just about anything. And I look back on all of the wisdom that he shared with me. Another fellow someone else that was a mentor of mine, his name was Nolan Burke, who was actually a naval officer. And these people were, I guess, I was in Newport News, Virginia at the time. And if you've ever been to that area, there's a lot of military. And so everybody's in the military or connected to military some way. But Nolan Burke was a retired naval officer. And it was really funny. He actually owned the building where I had my first office. And he was on, like I said, on one end of the building, my office was on the other. And I had a janitor, so I was cleaning the office and I started my computer training there. All week long, he wouldn't talk to you, wouldn't say a thing. You pass him in the hall, he'd just kind of grunt. He was really weird. But on Friday afternoons around 2 o'clock, he'd start to drink every Friday. And by 5 o'clock on a Friday, he was ready to talk. And we would sometimes sit for hours, and he would tell me about all the things he noticed I had done right that week and all the things he noticed I had done wrong that week. And I learned a lot from him. The last two I'm going to mention, the one I've already mentioned, is Dr. Joel Dudley Sr., who really emphasized the importance of being an entrepreneur and being a job maker instead of a job taker. And one other person I want to put in that list is Lafayette Jones, who some people may not have heard of, but he was the vice president for Johnny Johnson of Jet and Ebony magazine. He was the marketing guru behind Orville Redenbacher popcorn, and he was a marketing expert. And I've learned a lot about marketing from him. So I just want to, mention those names. Of course, there's others along the way, but those four really had an impact on me in different ways. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And then to the follow-up to that, what piece of advice can you give to business owners, Dr. Davies?
Well, I tell people one thing is to act, ACT. They say the biggest advantage you have as a small business is speed. What I mean by that is it's better to try something, even if it doesn't work. Try it, learn from it, regroup, and make adjustments and go forward, than to procrastinate, thinking about it, waiting on it, because entrepreneurship is a journey. The longer you wait to get started, the longer it's going to take to actually make that journey, to complete the journey. So you're just delaying. You still got to go through the learning process. Do you want to go through it and get it started quickly and get through it quickly? Or do you want to delay and postpone and hem and haw about it and just delay the entire process of it? So anyway, I would say to act, just to find your passion and act on it. Even if you're not sure, act, because you'll discover soon if this is what you really want to do or not, and then make adjustments along the way. You'll learn quickly if you act. If you don't act, you'll never know. And what's worse, if you don't act, and then someone else comes along and does what you thought about doing, and they made a success of it before you even took the time to just take that step and to do something about it. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Me and my wife, because we always do like a date night, and I was telling her, and this was a while back. So I don't want any lawsuits. I'm not saying I claimed it first. I just thought the idea first, but who's ever making money off of that's fine. But when waiters would come and they're writing down, making sure they got the order, I was like telling her, I was like, man, it would be great if they just had the device right in front of them, and then the message goes to the kitchen. When I tell you we've been starting to see that in the restaurants, I was like, babe, you know we could have been billionaires by now. She's like, I know, babe, it's okay. It's okay. So
That's right.
no, 1000% agreed. And then last but not least, Dr. Davis, if you could same question to you.
Yes, yes. Well, in terms of mentorship, I think some of my earliest mentors on particularly my research journey that I can't help but think about is Dr. Kimberly King Jupiter, as well as Dr. Carol Mullen. Both of these women are absolutely outstanding researchers, and I so appreciate how, what is it, maybe 20 years ago, they both took me under their wings and taught me what research could be like, and saw potential in me, right? So I really appreciate those two women. That's in terms of my academic research career. In terms of me being a relatively new entrepreneur, clearly I would say that Dr. Jimmy Davies is my main mentor, has been for the last couple of years. And I think that also I've developed some peer mentors on my entrepreneurial journey as well, where we are supporting each other and championing for each other regularly. Yes. And in terms of what I would suggest to other entrepreneurs who are on the journey, I would suggest something that falls similarly along the lines of what Dr. Matthews and Dr. Davies said. And I think it's very important to find an affinity groups, various affinity groups, right? So a group such as Every.Black to support you in terms of developing your business knowledge and becoming a stronger professional, right? Maybe a personal affinity group in terms of developing yourself spiritually, mentally, physically, right? I think that having multiple affinity groups outside of your profession really helps. And actually, something was mentioned. I never thought about it, but one thing that's very important to me, I am also a creative. I write poetry, I dance, so I'm a very multifaceted person. And I just realized, and I never considered my dance community as an affinity group, but a wise person recently said, your dance community is like an affinity group. And I was like, well, doggone it, it is, isn't it? So that is just another example of having various types of groups to support you, to honor you, to build you up, that represent all aspects of yourself, is a good and healthy thing long term.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. For this podcast, it just really means a lot for the fact that, my pathway is, of course, getting into law school. So just being honored by having three doctors, us doctors here on the podcast, talking about something that's going to be emerging more and more. We had the internet, we recall the days as far as what we were taught about the Great Depression and, civil rights and such, but this is definitely one of those things where it's like, hey, it's going to continue to grow. It's going to continue to flourish. So thank you, Dr. Matthews. Thank you, Dr. Davies. Thank you, of course, Dr. Davis, for coming on the podcast, talking about artificial intelligence and the importance of it in the African-American community.
Thank you for having us.
Thank
Appreciate you.
you. Yes, we
Thank
do.
you.
Can't wait to come back. What are you doing tomorrow?
I'm locking you in. I'm locking you in right now, man.
Thank you for tuning in to the RNG Radio Show. Be sure to like and subscribe for more episodes and future content. If you'd like to learn more, visit us at danielumstead.com. Stay blessed, my fellow millionaires.